Okay guys, first things first, this is everything that you need to know for your tests. These are all things that are pretty important parts of solving problems. So I'm just going to put it up there. You guys can pause and look at it and write it all down. There's stuff about parallelograms, rectangles, rhombuses, and squares. Remember, it gets more specific as it goes down. A square is a rectangle, is a rhombus, and is a parallelogram. A rectangle is a parallelogram. A rhombus is a parallelogram. So on and so forth. Down here, you got your trapezoid stuff. The mid-segment one is probably going to be really important. And also the opposite base angles add to 180. Opposite base angles would be like this angle here and this angle here. Those are consecutive interior angles, which means they are supplementary. Then you're going to need these formulas for polygons. So sum of interior angles means all of the interior angles added together. Each individual interior angle, so this is for one angle of a regular polygon, regular meaning all of the sides and angles are the same. Exterior angles, the sum of exterior angles is always 360 no matter how big the shape is or how many sides it has. And this formula gives you the number of sides given an exterior angle or the exterior angle given the number of sides in a regular polygon. And the interior and exterior angles must add to 180 degrees. Alright, so let's start working on this practice test right here. What is the value of x? First off, we need to know how many or how much each of these sides add to. There are 5 sides, so I'm going to do 5 minus 2 times 180, which comes out to 540. So that means each of these angles, all of them should add together to be 540. So this is 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 120 plus x equals 540. So add all those numbers together, we get 390 plus x equals 540, and subtract 390 from both sides to get x equals 150. See. 2. Determine the value of x. So again, we need to figure out what the sum of these angles should be. The sum is n minus 2 times 180. So this is 4 minus 2 times 180 to 360 degrees. 4-sided shape should add to 360. So this is 8x plus 1 plus 5x minus 4 plus 95 plus 73 equals 360. Combine like terms, 8x and 5x is 13x. 1 minus 4 plus 73 plus 95 is 165. Subtract 165 from both sides and we get 13x is equal to 195, or x is equal to 15. Number 3. It says the sum of exterior angles. Stop. Don't read the rest of your question. The answer is 360. The measure of n, or each interior angle. So that means we do n minus 2 times 180 divided by n. So this is 9 minus 2 times 180 divided by 9 for a grand total of 140 degrees. D. Determine the measure of each exterior angle. So this is going to be n times x is equal to 360, given with 12 sides. So n is equal to 12, 12x is equal to 360, divide both sides by 12, and we get 30 degrees. Okay. The measure of an interior angle is 162. So if I want to find the exterior angle, I would subtract 162 to get 18. 18 degrees is the measure of an exterior angle. So I just do n times x is equal to 360 because I have an exterior angle. N times 18 equals 360, and divide both sides by 18 to get n equals 20 sides. determine the value of x. So I need to find this missing angle. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided shape. So 6 minus 2 times 180, that comes out to 720. So all of these angles should add to 720. So I've got 140, 240, 340, 480, 580, plus this angle right here. 580 plus our missing angle is equal to 720. And we subtract 580 from both sides to get that this angle is 140 degrees. Since x is an exterior angle, that means it makes a straight line. We just do 180 minus 140 to get 40 degrees, our exterior angle. Find the number of sides if each exterior angle, so n times x equals 360, and n times 15 equals 360. Divide both sides by 15 to get n equals 24. Okay. If FH is 30, so this is a parallelogram, you can tell by the parallel sides. Therefore, that means that the diagonals bisect each other. So if FH all the way across is 30, that means that this is 15 and 15. So your answer is 15. For 10, if it's a rhombus, that means these sides are congruent to each other. So if that's x, this must be x because it's an isosceles triangle. So it's x plus 110 equals 180, or 2x plus 110 equals 180. 2x is equal to 70, x is 35. Moving on. Okay, for 11, this is a parallelogram, so we got to use those notes from the beginning of the video. Opposite angles are congruent in a parallelogram. So 6x minus 8 is equal to 4x plus 6. Solve that. Subtract 4x on both sides. Add 8 to both sides. X is equal to 7. The property that we use for x is that opposite angles are congruent. Now for y, if we have x as 7, we plug in for x. 6 times 7 minus 8, that's 34 degrees. And we know in a parallelogram that consecutive angles are supplementary. So therefore, I'm going to have 34 plus 2y plus 16 is equal to 180 degrees. That's 2y plus 50 equals 180. 2y is equal to 130, or y is 65. So consecutive angles are supplementary. Number 12, if this is a rhombus. Rhombus right away tells you that the diagonals are perpendicular. It also tells you that these angles are congruent to each other. So KLM, that's 70, and this angle is being split in half, which makes this angle 35. So now we're looking at a triangle. Angle 1, 90 degrees, 35. In a triangle, all angles add to 180. So angle 1 plus 90 plus 35 equals 180. Solve that to get x is 55 degrees. For 13, if it's an isosceles trapezoid, that means these guys are congruent. So if that's 100, this is 100. And these guys are consecutive angles, which means they add to 180. So 100 plus our missing angle x is equal to 180. Subtract 100 from each side to get 80 degrees. 14. Which statements are true for a parallelogram? Select all that apply. So A and B are consecutive angles, which means they are supplementary. A and C are opposite angles, which means they should be equal to each other. So B is not necessarily true. If it was a rectangle, it would be true. And A equals D, that is not true. That's acute, that's obtuse, they are not equal. BC congruent to AD, opposite sides are congruent, that is true. And angle A equals angle C, those are opposite angles, so that's true. For 15, determine the length of KL. We need to use the 2 times the midsegment is equal to base 1 plus base 2. So this is 2 times 5x plus 2 is equal to base 1 4x plus 1 plus base 2 27. Distribute. 10x plus 4 is equal to 4x plus 28. Subtract 4x on both sides, subtract 4 on both sides, and we get 6x is equal to 24, or x is equal to 6. Now, that's not, sorry, x is equal to 4. So this will happen on your test, where they will give you 4 as one of your answers, but we're not asking for x, we're asking for the length of KL, which means we have to plug it back in. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. Next problem, 16. Determine the values of x and y. This is a rectangle, which means all the diagonals are congruent. Diagonals are congruent in a rectangle. So therefore, if this is 52, this is 52. We also know that in a rectangle, that's 90 degrees. So 90 minus 52 gives you 38. That's your answer for y. Y equals 38. So keep in mind that since this is an isosceles triangle inside the rectangle, if this is 38, then this must also be 38 degrees. And in a triangle, this triangle right here, all of the angles add to 180. So you could just do 38 plus 38 plus x is equal to 180, or 76 plus x equals 180, or x is equal to 104. For 17, we have an isosceles trapezoid. So we got to remember the midpoint formula here. Midpoint formula is 2 times the midsegment is equal to base 1 plus base 2. So this is 2 times 3n minus 4 is equal to 10 plus 36. Distribute the 2 to get 6n minus 8 is equal to 46. The opposite of minus 8 is plus 8. Add 8 to both sides. 6n is equal to 54. And divide both sides by 6 to get n equals 9. To find EF, we just got to plug it back in. 3 times 9 minus 4 is equal to 23. So that's the sides. Now we have the angles we got to deal with. And since it's a trapezoid, we know that consecutive angles add to 180. So 3x plus 2 plus 2x minus 17 equals 180. 5x minus 15 equals 180. Add 15 to both sides to get 5x is equal to 195. And then divide both sides by 5 to get x is 39. Okay. We do have to find the measure of angle ADC since D is in the middle. That's the angle I'm looking for. And since this is an isosceles trapezoid, I know that these two angles must be congruent. So I just got to plug 39 in. 2 times 39 minus 17, that's going to be 61. Okay, so to find x, I knew that consecutive angles were supplementary. And to find n, I had to use the 2 times the mid-segment is equal to b1 plus b2. For 18, ABCD is a parallelogram. I replaced this with 12 in my class because the substitution property isn't on our test anymore. In a parallelogram, we know that opposite sides are congruent. So we got 15 minus 3y is equal to 12. And let's solve for that to get y is equal to 1. So there's our first answer. Now we can plug 1 into this. We know that 2x plus 9 times 1 is equal to 42. So 2x plus 9 equals 42. 2x is equal to 33, or x is equal to 16.5. 19, this is a rhombus. Right away, everything inside the rhombus where the perpendicular, where the diagonals intersect, that's 90 degrees. Diagonals are perpendicular. So therefore, y is equal to 90 degrees. Now, since this is a rhombus, I know that all of these sides are congruent to each other, which means if this base angle is 43, then z must also be 43. Because in an isosceles triangle, they point to congruent angles. Okay? So to find x, this is 90. Z was 43 degrees. I know that everything in a triangle adds to 180. So this is going to be x plus 90 bless me, plus 43 is equal to 180. So therefore x plus 133 is equal to 180, and subtract 133 from both sides to get x equals 47. So those are all my angles. To find n, I know in a rhombus, all sides are congruent in a rhombus. So 15n minus 7 is equal to 12n plus 20. Subtract 12n on both sides to get 3n minus 7 equals 20. Add 7 to both sides, and n is equal to 9. For 20, for the rectangle, let's find the coordinates. So since Q is directly above R, these are the same distance away on the x-axis, so they should share the same x-coordinate. Q is also the same height as P, so that means they share the same y-coordinate, K. So Q is C, comma K. To find the midpoint of PR, that's x1, y1, x2, y2, you just use the midpoint formula. Add the x's together, 0 plus c divided by 2. Add the y values together, k plus 0 divided by 2, which means our midpoints are c over 2, comma, k over 2. For SQ, Same thing, x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's 0 plus c divided by 2, comma 0 plus k divided by 2, and it looks like they're the same. Okay. So quadrants, this is quadrant 1, this one would be quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. That's how all the quadrants work in the Cartesian system. On your test, it won't ask you about quadrants. So A is 1, negative 1. B is 2, negative 4. C is 4, negative 2. So if I want to end up in quadrant 4, if I went from this point to this point, I would go down 1, 2, 3, right 1. So from the other point, I go down 1, 2, 3, right 1. And there you go, there's a parallelogram. If I wanted to go in quadrant 3, which means end up over here, I could go down to left 2, so down to left 2, put a dot. There's my other possibility of a parallelogram. And if I want to end up in quadrant 1, up here, so to go from this point to this point, I can go left 1, up 1, 2, 3, left 1, up 1, 2, 3, put a dot, and there we go. Remember, in a parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel, so you just got to make sure they have the same slope. Okay, a rectangle is a square that is sometimes. Here's a rectangle that is not a square. Here is a rectangle that is a square. So that's sometimes. A square is a rhombus. That is always. By definition, a square has all equal sides, and that has the rhombus definition. A trapezoid is a parallelogram that is never. Because a parallelogram has two pairs of opposite parallel sides. A trapezoid only has one. The diagonals of a parallelogram are perpendicular. That is sometimes. That is if it is a rhombus. Okay. If it's a rectangle, those diagonals definitely do not make 90 degrees. But in a rhombus they do. And I will need to change this up in class. If this said all sides of a parallelogram are congruent, that is sometimes. If it's a rhombus, that is true. Opposite sides of a parallelogram are always congruent. But all sides are sometimes congruent. Okay, and 23, if BC is equal to DA, BC, DA, AB congruent to DC, AB, DC, and we know that AC is congruent to AC by the reflexive property, we know the triangles are congruent by side, side, side theorem, D. Okay, I'm sorry if I went fast. If I did go fast, please just slow down or rewind the video. You can see me probably during passing. Send me an email if you have questions. Other than that, I'll see you guys later. Have a good night.